Great. Well, I'll go ahead and kick us off again. Hello. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Catherine Duval. I'm going to be your facilitator for our virtual visit to the MAG Iraq program. I'm based in MAG's American office here in Washington, D.C. And as I introduce our panelists, we're really all over the world this afternoon and evening. So really excited to speak with you. This series is designed to take supporters of MAG's work into the field so they can learn more about our mission and our vision and how the work that we do gets done. So we're delighted that we can showcase one of our longest running programs, the Iraq program, for you this afternoon. Over the course of the year, we're going to be virtually crossing 3 different continents, traveling from the Middle East to Southern Africa and to Southeast Asia. So we hope you'll share where you'd like to travel with us on social media. You can tag us at Minds Advisory Group or use the hashtag virtual visit on any of our posts on social media, and we can get some ideas for where you'd like to go next. I'm thrilled to introduce our panelists for the event this afternoon. I think we all have the same sort of screen set up, but just in case, directly below me is Darren Cormack. He's CEO of MAG. Darren's been with MAG since 2008 and became CEO last year. We're thrilled to have him. Thanks, Darren. Immediately to my left here is Salaam Muhammed, who's MAG's Standards and Technical Manager at the MAG Iraq program. Below Salaam, in my kind of diagonal corner here, is Jack Morgan. Jack's the country director for MAG Iraq. Welcome, Jack. And our guest of honor this afternoon in the center lower part of the panel is Representative Bayan, Sami, Abdul, Rahman. She's the US representative for the Kurdistan regional government and longtime friend and advocate of MAG. We're so thrilled to have her. Some of you maybe who joined the panel last year about the Into the Fire film might recognize Representative Rahman as well. So thank you all for your time this afternoon. We've got a great discussion. I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts. So I'll just remind everybody again, we'll have the chat box open on the right-hand side of the screen, as well as where you can put your questions for our Q&A portion later in the call. And one other thing to note, that we're going to have some videos as well throughout the call. There'll be a video from a beneficiary talking about the area that's been cleared, and then we'll also hear from a deminer in the field in the Mosul area. So we're really looking forward to having everybody's voices. And without further ado, I will kick it over to CEO Darren Cormack. Darren, thanks so much.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Welcome, everybody. Welcome from DC to Manchester, which is where MAG is based. So my name's Darren. I'm the CEO of MAG. I've been with MAG for 13 years, and I've had the privilege to lead MAG for the last year. It is a real honor and privilege to be the CEO of this organization. It's an organization that I love, and it does work that I and we as a MAG family are very passionate about. So I hope we're able to convey that today to you. MAG exists, our vision is for a safe future for women, children, men and boys who are affected by violence, conflict, and insecurity. And, we do this in principally 2 ways. We remove landmines and unexploded ordnance, the legacy of conflict, and we reduce the impact of small arms like weapons and ammunition. Since we were founded in 1989, we've worked around the world. We're presently in 26 countries, and in that 30 years we've been working, we've helped over 20 million people who have been previously trapped in fear from landmines or at risk as a result of the legacy of conflict. This work is achieved by the 5,000 staff we have around the world. The majority of the staff we employ come from communities that are affected, communities that haven't been able to prosper because land is contaminated. And they're the real heroes, not me sat here in Manchester, but, and we're pleased that we'll hear from one of those today, Salaam, one of MAG's staff members, a great example of the people we employ around the world. None of this would be possible without the generous support of our donors and our partners and members of the public, though. So at the start, I really want to reiterate that message that we are enabled by you. The United States government, Department of State Weapons Removal and Abatement, a generous donor to the Iraq program, as is the government of Norway, the UMCOR Foundation, the government of Canada, and just many of you individuals who generously donate to the appeals we put out. Thank you so much for that, for standing with us. And to the staff who day in, day out put themselves out there representing MAG well and doing this work diligently. Today, the purpose is to thank you. It is to connect you. You know, MAG is inextricably linked to the context here in Iraq. You know, we've been there since 1992. We've witnessed conflict. We have been with the people. We are, in many ways, the people in Iraq, given how we employ locally. And so that's key. We also want to be transparent. You know, we are custodians. We are stewards of the generous support that we get. So we want to be held to account. We want to be transparent. Ask us questions. We want today to be where you get to learn about what you would like to learn about. And there really is any question you can ask. You know, so feel free to use the function that Catherine's outlined. But most of all, you know, wherever you are, we want to transport you for an hour, to put aside the focus you've got, the busyness you've got, and try and relate, you know, which I struggle to do in the privileged world I live in, but to relate to communities that are trapped in fear, communities that haven't been able to realize their potential. I'm sat here, my kids are running out on the street in an effort to be quiet so they don't disturb me. I'm not worried about them playing in the garden and stepping on a landmine, but there would be many, you know, fathers, mothers, siblings worried about what their youngest child is doing. Have they got out of the gate? Are they in the road? You know, what is that risk? And really, we're trying to relieve one of those stresses for communities that, you know, across Iraq and across the world is struggling with this conflict. So really try and put yourself in that context today. And it's very real, this very real context. 2 weeks ago, I was in Lebanon visiting one of the villages where COVID is making people poorer, is creating pressures to use land differently, to sustain income. And that's the same in context, you know, like Iraq. In one of the villages I was in 2 weeks ago, we'd removed 5,000 landmines since 2018. And you'll hear stats like that today. You'll hear the impact like that today, and it's very real. And people need the land. People need that sense of freedom from fear. And, you know, through your support, we're able to make that happen. I hope we can bring that to life today. I hope you feel connected. It's just one of the ways that you can connect with MAG. So that's it from me. I look forward to taking questions later. I'm honored to hand over to Bayan, who's been introduced, who has seen firsthand and lived this experience that we talk about. So we're very privileged to have you with us, and I'll hand over there and look forward to talking with me more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Darren. It's a great honor for me to be part of this panel, and it's a great honor and privilege for me to support MAG. You do incredible work. Your staff on the ground, of course, I know some of your staff in Iraq, but hearing about you working in 26 countries, every single one of them is very brave, and we should recognize that and honor them. And I should also like to thank your donors. Without the donors, whether it's the United States or European countries, other countries, perhaps the work of MAG would not be as effective. So a big thank you to all of them as well. Why am I honored to participate today and to support MAG? Because you help devastated communities, economies, lands, people overcome adversity. What greater gift, what greater service can there be than that? Maybe I'll just explain a little bit about who I am and the government and region I represent, and then I'll speak about how I came across MAG myself in the early 1990s. So I'm the representative in the United States of the Kurdistan regional government. Kurdistan region is a recognized region in Iraq. Our population is about 5 million. We are currently hosting about 1 million displaced fellow Iraqis and Syrian refugees. Now, many of those fellow Iraqis fled ISIS. Many of them are Yazidis from Sinjar, Christians from the Nineveh Plain, and Sunni and Shia Arabs, Turkmen, Assyrians, and so on. So we can see every day that many of these displaced people are not able to return to their homes, even though they've been liberated from ISIS for a few years now. Why? One of the main reasons is the contamination with mines, booby traps, IEDs. There are other causes too, but certainly the legacy of ISIS is one of those reasons why those displaced people have to remain in Kurdistan. Of course, from our perspective, they're welcome to stay with us, but we know that they want to return home. And I think one of the dangers for Iraq and for Kurdistan is that if those displaced communities aren't able to return home, they will leave. They will leave the country altogether to seek refuge in the United States, the UK, elsewhere in Europe. Of course, everybody has the right to do that, but it would be devastating and I think a huge injustice to those ancient communities to be forced out of their own country, forced out of their own homelands, because we weren't able to help them return home. And one of the organizations that is making it possible for them to return home is MAG. And you're doing it every day, despite the challenges that you and your staff face on the ground. Now, I first came across MAG in the 1990s, maybe 92, I honestly don't remember exactly when. I grew up as a refugee in the United Kingdom, in London, so I'm actually a Londoner from Sinjar. My family is originally from Sinjar, but I grew up in London, and the first time that I was able to return to Kurdistan or Iraq was after 1991, after the no-fly zone was established over Kurdistan. And I went to Kurdistan in August 92. And through the 90s, I visited Kurdistan several times. My father, of course, was working there. My mother was also there by then as well. And this is where I saw signs as we were driving around. We did a tour, if you like, of Kurdistan. We went everywhere and we saw for ourselves the utter devastation that Saddam Hussein had caused to this part of Iraq. We weren't able to go elsewhere in Iraq, but only in Kurdistan. I visited Halabja, for example. Halabja was still rubble. It reminded me of the pictures I saw as a student growing up in the UK of post-World War II Europe, where everything was devastated and rubble. But as we were driving around, we would see these signs, a skull and crossbone, and warning people that there were mines there. And this is really when I learned that Kurdistan and other parts of Iraq were among the most contaminated places in the world when it came to landmines. And unfortunately, I believe that's still the case. Perhaps our friends from MAG can clarify that, but I believe Iraq as a whole, including Kurdistan, remains one of the most contaminated places in the world. And this is why MAG's work is so critical, even today. And as I said, you're helping communities to be able to reclaim their lives. I mentioned that I'm from Sinjar. My family is Shingali or Sinjari. And even though I didn't really live there, but the culture of our family is certainly very Sinjari. The Kurdish that we speak, the accent is Sinjari, the food, the links, and our family heritage is from there. So of course, I'm always very concerned about Sinjar and about the Yazidi community who some have been able to return to Sinjar, but others have not. And I think it's very important to talk about why MAG's work in Sinjar is so important. We all know that the Yazidis were really the biggest victims of ISIS's genocide in Iraq. And there are many ways that we can help the Yazidis, and they want to help themselves, whether it's psychosocial services to help them overcome the trauma, build their capacity so they can create jobs and have some economic future, but also the kind of work that MAG is doing by recruiting people from the Yazidi community to clear the mines from their own areas. This is not only giving them work, if you like, a livelihood, but also I think giving them a sense of empowerment. If you were enslaved by ISIS, saw members of your family beheaded or buried alive, what greater thing can you have than to feel that you're bringing your community back? You're doing something in service of your community. I saw a film that was made about the work of MAG, Into the Fire, where a Yazidi woman, Hannah Khidr, was featured in this film. And she is a Yazidi woman who survived the ISIS genocide, having been utterly traumatized by it. But she was now leading a MAG team to clear ISIS's mines and IEDs and to help her own community reclaim their lives and to be able to lift themselves up out of that devastation. I don't remember if we're going to see that film today or not, but anyway, I would recommend everybody to search for it. Perhaps it's on YouTube. Catherine, please tell us. But I would recommend everybody to try to see that film to really get an understanding of MAG's work. One last point from me before I hand over. MAG is really able to give communities hope for the future. And I think this is what's really so critical. When I visited Kurdistan for the first time after having left as a child, I visited it went back as an adult in '92. I saw for myself the devastation, 4,500 villages destroyed by Saddam's regime, Halabja becoming rubble, and knowing that 5,000 people there had died from the genocide, the Anfal campaign, and today is Anfal Day in Kurdistan to remember the people who died from the genocide. But I saw hope when I came across MAG in the 1990s. And I see hope today when I see MAG and your teams on the ground, like Salaam and others, clearing mines, putting their lives at risk. I know they take many measures, but regardless, it is risky. That is a fact that we have to acknowledge. And you, all of you collectively, are providing hope for people on the ground. And this is why, again, I want to thank all of your teams, wherever they are around the world, but particularly in Iraq. Thank your teams, whether you're in Manchester, Washington, or Erbil, and to thank your donors. What you're doing is transforming lives, helping them overcome adversity. Now, with that, I would like to hand over to Jack Morgan, who is the country director for MAG, and over to you, Jack, and thank you from me.
Thank you, Bayan, and hello, everyone. Welcome to Iraq. I'm talking to you here from Erbil in the north of the country, and I joined MAG in September last year, so I'm fairly new actually, but I'm really, really privileged to lead this amazing team that we've got in country. We have at the moment over 770 staff, the majority national. We have 28 internationals, and we cover 7 operational areas in country with 6 bases. So we have a really large outfit, but we're really, really happy to have the chance to talk to you guys today. Hopefully some of you will have the chance to come and visit at some point in the future. I had a look at the invite list. I recognize some names, so some of you have come before, but we'd love to host you again at some point if the opportunity arises. So as Darren mentioned, our job here in Iraq is specific and focused and quite simple, really. We're here to clear the country of unexploded remnants of war, and at the same time to educate communities about the risks of these unexploded objects, so that families know what they should do if they come across a landmine or some unexploded hazard. And our vision is a safe future for men, women, girls and boys affected by violence, insecurity and conflict here. So before we dive into how we do what we do, I just wanted to share a bit about the scope, because we have mentioned about how large this problem is. I mean, as some of you are aware in the history, you know, this beautiful region has sadly been the epicenter of protracted conflict for more than half a century. So from the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s to the Kuwait bombing campaign, the US-led invasion in 2003, and then the subsequent occupation by ISIS, these events have really brought a relentless stream of violence into the lives of the people that live here. When MAG first started working here in almost 3 decades ago, we were initially working to remove what we call conventional landmines. So these were landmines laid in quite mountainous areas, remote areas of the country, along the border with Iran. But the nature of our work, and indeed the types of contamination that we deal with, changed significantly when ISIS came across the border from Syria in 2014. So during their occupation, ISIS systematically laid improvised landmines and booby traps everywhere they could. So in houses, in schools, in markets, hospitals, shops, soccer fields, parks, farmland, bridges, basically anywhere that people go. And some of these devices that MAG now find and remove, they're sensitive enough to be triggered by a child's footstep, but deadly enough to destroy a tank. And ISIS laid these mines not only to achieve their military objectives, but also to instill fear within the community. And this campaign of terror displaced almost 5 million people at the height of the conflict. Today, that number has fallen, thankfully. It's around 1.2 million. But that's an incredible number of families that feel like they cannot return to their homeland or their ancestral land because of the dangers that have been left behind. According to the most recent statistics, there's approximately 600,000 acres of contaminated land across the country, which is about twice the size of Dallas, to put things in perspective, and it's a huge problem. We recognize that it could take many, many years before we can declare Iraq landmine free. But we are seeing incredible progress as well. And some of you might have seen in the news that the Pope visited Najaf Governorate recently, which was declared landmine free at the beginning of this year. So there is hope out there, and we're certainly going to stay till the job's done. Our most pressing goal in Iraq is to clear and release this land so that families can then return back and rebuild their lives and their livelihoods. So how do we do this? Given the different types of contamination and the different types of bombs that exist, MAG has what we call a toolbox approach to mine action, different tools for different tasks and different challenges. So we have trained teams of male and female and mixed gender teams that go out with detectors and manually clear that land by hand. We currently have 77 teams that are doing that at the moment. And they're supported by a huge fleet of mechanical assets and machines that can remove rubble and sift through building material, basically get to places that are difficult for the manual deminers. We use these in areas such as mountains or hills or gullies or steep slopes, and also for building clearance. They're supported by our amazing team of mine detection dog teams that come from Bosnia, and we train them not only to detect homemade explosives, but also they're very clever. They can detect the components that make up these improvised devices. So things like the rubber tubing or the wiring that goes into these homemade bombs, they can sniff that out so that MAG can find and remove them. And we also make sure they have a nice home when they retire at the end, when they've completed their service. Finally, our community liaison teams are the final piece of the puzzle. They're our eyes and ears in the community. They're responsible for delivering this mine awareness, risk education to communities. And we train teachers and other community workers to be able to do that as well in a more sustainable way. All of our teams that we have, they are fully trained. They go through rigorous training. We have a really great school down in Shamshamal in Sulaymaniyah Governorate. And these new recruits, they spend 4 weeks being trained up on how to be a deminer. They have practical tests, they have written tests, so they're fully qualified when they go out in the field. We also have a sort of mocked up IED house where we'll let people go in. It's rigged up to be like it is in real life, so they know the type of devices that they're dealing with. I want to say a little bit about our female teams, because as Bayan mentioned, people in these communities, they want to take back control of their lives. And working in Mine Action is one way to do that. And so I'm pleased to say that in Iraq, we have currently the largest number of female deminers and female operational staff of any other country that MAG works in. And we celebrated the achievement of our female leaders on International Women's Day and also Women's History Month. And I'm really pleased that you'll actually hear from one of our female deminers from Mosul coming up soon. I'd also like to say a little bit about our results to date. I saw someone, a question came up and said, what have we been doing for 30 years? Well, I can tell you that in the time that we've been here, our teams have found and removed almost 170,000 landmines and nearly 20,000 improvised explosives. And in addition to that, over 2 million pieces of unexploded ordnance. So mortars or shells or anything else that didn't go off when it landed. Our community liaison teams, they've held more than 110,000 risk education sessions, reaching 1.6 million people. And throughout all of this work, we've managed to clear 30 acres of land, which is almost the size of Washington, DC. And this has allowed communities to return and rebuild schools and homes and hospitals and more. And as Darren said, and as we've said before, none of this would be possible without the amazing support of you guys. And so I want to say a personal thank you on behalf of my team. We couldn't do it without you. We're proud and we've been grateful to work in close cooperation with the government of the United States, as Darren mentioned, the State Department, WRA, also the Bureau of Humanitarian Affairs, and then the government of Canada. Our European partners include Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Finland, the EU itself. And then last year, we've been working with the government of France and also Germany. So with these great contributions, hopefully we're achieving really great results. But, you know, at the end of the day, numbers can only really tell you a small, fraction about this work. And what I'd like to do now is introduce you to some of the people that we've worked with. In particular, I'd like to share an interview with a school teacher called Mr. Jassim. We worked with him in Hamdaniya district near to Erbil, and he will discuss what mine clearance and means in his community. Thank you.
قيس إدريس جاسم من قرية تل اللبن. الأعمال اللي كانت سائدة عندنا، طبعا القرية جميلة، معروف منطقتنا منطقة جميلة واقع على نهر الخازر، طبيعتها طبيعة جميلة. طبعا في ليلة 6/7 عام 2014 سيطر عصابات داعش الإرهابية على منطقة سهل نينوى من قضاء الحمدانية إلى قرانا. استمرت طبعا من 2014 آب 2014 إلى أيار 2016، ما يقارب سنتين ظلت المنطقة تحت سيطرة عصابات داعش الإرهابية. فقاموا بزرع الآلاف من العبوات، مئات العبوات وآلاف العبوات في المنطقة حتى لا يتقدم القوات الأمنية وتحرر المنطقة. فبالتالي هذه أثر سلبا على المنطقة، يعني ولا سيما أول يوم من أيام التحرير شبابنا يعني دخلوا إلى القرية، 4 من شبابنا في أول يوم تحرير استشهدوا. طبعا هذه ما كانوا يعرفون به، ما كان لديهم علم بوجود هذه العبوات. فمن دخلوا انفجرت عليهم العبوات. للأسف يعني أسف الشديد 4 من شباب خيرة شباننا راحوا ضحية هذه العبوات وعدم معرفتهم بوجود هذه العبوات. فطبعا بعد أن تم أو عرفوا بوجود هذه العبوات، طبعا قامت منظمتكم مشكورة، منظمة ماغ، بالعمل أو البحث عن العبوات وكذلك توعية الناس من خلال مقابلات شخصية معهم أو زيارة عوائلهم أو نشر صور تبين خطورة الأماكن المشبوهة اللي ممكن توجد فيها هذه العبوات، ومن ثم فيما بعد إزالتها. ما يقارب تقريبا أكثر من 95% من العوائل رجعوا بعد أن شعروا بالأمان والطمأنينة على نفوسهم وعلى أبنائهم وعلى أموالهم، فرجعوا سكنوا في بيوتهم. كأنها يعني من المستحيل العودة وإعادة الحياة. 3 مدارس، طبعا 3 مدارس عندنا في المنطقة، يعني ما يقارب 1000 طالب وتلميذ يداومون في قريتنا. إذن هذه نتيجة إعادة الأمن والطمأنينة إلى نفوس الأهالي. يعني لأي الأولياء الأمور إذا يعرفون بوجود خطر على أبنائهم ولو 1%، لا يستطيعون إرسال أبنائهم إلى المدارس. فأكيد يعني أنتم جهودكم واضحة. فطبعا إزالة الألغام أساسي ومهم جدا لإعادة الحياة لأي منطقة كانت، سواء كان منطقتنا أو مناطق أخرى. توعية منظمة ماج وعمل منظمة ماج في المنطقة، تم إزالة الآلاف من هذه العبوات، فضلا عن بأن أصبحت المنطقة شعور لدى أهالي المنطقة بالأمن والاطمئنان بأن المنطقة أصبحت نظيفة. فمهمة جدا إزالة الألغام. نعم.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you found that interesting. It's people like Mr. Jassim really inspire us to continue doing the work, because we can see what results come from our work there. Now, next, I'm really happy to introduce you to a great colleague of mine, Salaam, who is one of, if not the most longest serving MAG member in Iraq. Who will tell you a little bit about how and why he joined MAG and how his experience has been to date. Over to you, Salaam.
Thanks, Jack, and hello, everyone. I am Salaam Muhammed, and I'm happy to join you this evening from Erbil, our head office. I've been working with MAG for almost 29 years. I supported the program of Mine Action through MAG in Laos, Cambodia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Kurdistan region within Iraq. My story with MAG begins from the 1991 when I was the university student at the University of Baghdad College of Administration and Economic. And in 1991, the uprising against Saddam Hussein's regime happened, and the uprising against that regime began. And then as a result, I suspended my study and returned back to Kurdistan, the northern part of the country, which is the Iraqi Kurdistan, until 1992. But at that time, when uprising happened in 1991, it lasted and led to the liberation of all Kurdish major cities, including Kirkuk. But that will not last for long. Almost after 1 month, the Iraqi army put their acts together and returned back, invading most of the major cities in Kurdistan. And as a result, people left their homes, their houses, and everything behind and fled to the bordering areas with Iran and Turkey. And I was there in the Iranian border. My hometown is called Penjwin, belonged to the governorate of Suleimania in Iraqi Kurdistan. Hundreds and thousands of families ending up there. That area was, fighting took place between Iran and Iraq from 1980s until 1988. And as a result, hundreds of minefields being laid by the both armies in that area, and a lot of abandoned ordnance explosives left behind, and bombs. And people just, they went to those areas. We had no one, and people had no idea, including myself, about mines and exploded ordnance and its dangers. So on the daily basis, I've seen a lot of accidents happening to those people who are displaced internally in their own country and ending up in the bordering areas with Iran. I'm talking especially about Penjwin, which is one of the highly contaminated areas with mines and exploded ordnances and bombs. So then after that, in 1992, I decided to go back because it was like my last year of education. I returned back to Baghdad and then finished that university and then returned back to Kurdistan, to my hometown again. And I was with a group of friends of mine looking at the solution. We had no one to support us at that time. The country is just newly liberated, littered with mines and exploded ordnances. And every day I witnessed myself and my colleagues deaths of children, women, men, boys, and was really a very difficult time. And we had no expertise to how to support the communities. So one day when I was at home in my hometown in Penguin, one of my friends told me, Salaam, I've got a good news for you. I think you are going to be impressed with it. What he told me is a British charity called MAG are in Kurdistan and especially in the city of Sulaymaniyah. And they are asking for people to go and work with them. So I would just jump in a car and went there. On arrival, I found them in Sulaymaniyah in their offices. And then they tried to explain the terms and conditions and work. And to be honest with you, I didn't allow them to finish. I'm in, I have no time for that. Let's to do something about the problem. So yeah, and then we continued and because the reason I did that, every day I took part in recovering either body or injured people out from the minefields. The one who survived, we took them to the hospital, which is very like low quality hospital at that time because everything was destroyed. My hometown in 1981 was destroyed and we forced to leave the area. So those who are not survived or died, we took them to the graveyard straight away from the minefield and buried them then. So we took part in supporting them people, not to allowing their close relatives to do that body recoveries because they lost their concentration and might lead to more accidents. Those horrors on daily basis encouraged me to go and find a solution. And then MAG was a solution at that time because there was no one to support our communities. And MAG was the first organization or NGO arrived the country to support. So in August 1992, I joined MAG. I went through the basic demining or mine clearance course for 2 months. During the course time, we used to work from early morning until the afternoon, and then the afternoon time was not the rest time, was the time to respond to the community's demands because we had expats who are qualified. So we conducted body recovery or taking the injured people out from the minefields and educating the communities after work. So our work, like studying in the morning, making preparation to graduate after 2 months, at the same time supporting the community because the size of the problem was so huge, we couldn't do so. We maximized our time and presence on the ground to support the communities. So on the MAG arrival, as I said, I was the first university volunteer. I volunteered without allowing them to finish or to complete the terms and conditions and the rest of it. Then we started the work and continued for 2 months. And in October 1992, I disarmed or made the first mine safe. I had all the knowledge required, all equipments required to conduct the job, but I never touched a real mine in the minefield until then. So my heart was like beating very fast and going towards the mine. Then I took all the right procedures and position, was mentored by an expatriate staff from UK to make sure that I am following all the drills and procedures properly. When I disarmed the mine, another feeling comes to my body and my mind. They changed me like forever. When I returned back, disarming the mine or render it safe, I returned back and I still remember, I hear the voice of that person. He just doing like that. They say, well done, mate. if you continue like that, applying all of the rules and procedures, you are going to be safe and you can serve your community. I still remember the voice of that person. Since then, I become more confident, but not overconfident. After 29 years of experience in this field, I still applying the same respect and discipline when I'm dealing with an item. So, you know, during my time or my service with MAG in Iraq and those countries I mentioned, I've come across a lot of different scenarios, different type of mines and exploded ordnances, improvised explosive devices, which is known by IEDs, booby traps, and working in all parts of Iraq and including Kurdistan. Those items caused a major problem and threats to the communities. And every time when I look back, I will see the changes it's been made by the generous donation from the donors, from MAG coming to the country and supporting the community, from MAG and the donors building a local sustainable capacity to remain and deal with the problem. When I go back to those villages, I see the difference. I wish one day you will have the time and chance to come and visit and you will see what I am talking about. So really a big change has happened, but still the size of the problem is too big. What we've done, high priority areas moved and cleared, and people can live safely in them areas or lands and continue their lives. When I just left back after 20 or 30 years of experience and work, I gained the respect of my communities and government of Kurdistan as well, because they know now why I was allocating all my life and dedicating all my life for such type of work. And now they understand, they treat me with the full respect and sharing their gratitude with me and giving me incentive to continue every day with passion, looking for the next day to return back and work and support my communities and affected communities by landmines and exploded ordnance. I'm very happy to share a video of one of MAG deminers who's working, Shaima, working a girl. She's working with our female teams. And now and later on, we can talk about a little bit about a few things, and then we will take it from there.
Thanks, Salaam. All right, we've got one video left. Here we go.
السلام عليكم، أنا شيماء من الموصل، حاليا ديماينر بالMAG. طبعا تجربة كلش مؤلمة، إنه أيام داعش كان أكو انفجارات هواية، حتى إحنا وكنا بالبيت كانت الشظايا تقع علينا والصواريخ، يعني إحنا بداخل البيت، فهذا كان يصير رعب داخلنا، يعني إنه داعش ما كان مقدم لنا يعني أمان، دائما انفجارات، دائما شظايا، ويعني تعرفين راحونا هم بالانفجار، إنه بيت خالتي يعني أو أقاربي لما طلعوا بالانفجار هم يعني كلهم راحوا 4 أشخاص، عدا يعني إنه كان عندنا هم أقارب ثانيين، البيت راح يعني فوقهم تقريبا 14 نفر، كلهم راحوا بصاروخ، كله بسبب داعش. فهاي الانفجارات لما تصير يعني كانت تجربة سيئة مؤلمة حزينة، يعني من كل الجهات ما كان شيء حلو، ما كان شيء حلو. لما كنا تحت رحمة داعش يعني ما كان شيء حلو، كله انفجار، يوميا واحد ميت، يوميا نشوف الدماية بالشارع، الناس قتل قدامنا، يعني الذبح هاي، فهذا الشيء أثار رعب داخلنا. بس التجربة كانت مؤلمة كلش كلش كلش. أولا المكان اللي احنا فيه عادات يعني يعني منطقة محافظة عشائر وتقاليد بيها، ويعني بخصوصي عند البنت إنه البنت عليها نظرة دائما سلبية، إنه البنت ما يصير تطلع حتى الدراسة يمنع، إنه البنت ما يصير تدرس، ما يصير تطلع، ما يصير. فإحنا يعني أنا كأول شيء واجهت طبعا صعوبات ويا أهلي ويا عمامي ويا خوالي، إنه ليش تروحين تدخلين هذا المجال وهاي. بعدين أنا بابا طبعا هو السند مال يعني مصدر القوة مالتي. مهم لأنه من الواقع اللي إحنا عشنا به كله متفجرات وكلها حروب وكلها، فهذا يصير مصدر قوة لي إنه أني أقدر أشتغل مع الخطر، أتعامل مع الخطر بحد ذاته، يعني مباشرة للخطر كوني بنت. طبعا إنه تعرفين المجتمعات إنه ما يشجعون البنت تشتغل وتدخل أي مجال، وممنوع تصير اجتماعية، وممنوع تطلع من البيت، لأن كل تفكيرهم إنه البنت ما تقدر تسوي شيء. فإحنا أنا اليوم وهاي وقفتي كلتها حتى أثبت لكل مرة إنه المرأة تقدر تشتغل كل شيء ومع المخاطر، لأن المرأة مصدر قوة بحد ذاتها. فكيف إذا تعاملت مع المتفجرات وهاي تزيد القوة أكثر وأكثر. طبعا إنه يومية خطر، يومية ممكن إنه السيارات بالطريق تتوقف، ممكن يصير اغتيال، ممكن هاي. بس إحنا دائما عندنا يعني دائما الأمن يجي عندها خطة مسبقة لأماننا إحنا وسلامتنا. فهذا الشيء هو المهم، اللي إنه الMAG تهتم بسلامة الموظف قبل كل شيء. فما عندي أي مخاوف يعني بأي جهة إنه راح يصير علي خطر بالMAG أو هاي. لو إنه أني من نزلت للحقل كان أكو خطر هاي، فإحنا دائما بعيدين عن الخطر، حتى لما نشتغل نكون مسافة آمنة بيننا وبين هاي الخطر. طبعا من أشوف إنه خطر كبير وهاي، إنه أبتعد مسافة آمنة عن مكان الخطر وأقعد مكان آمن لي. بعدين إنه أكو تيم ليدر، أكو إنه إذا صار عندنا أي مخاوف أو أي شيء نقدر نقله، حتى يعني يعرف إن طبعا التيم ليدر دائما يشجع الموظف إنه ماكو شيء خطر، ماكو هاي، فنتحمل كريلاكس، ماكو مشاكل يعني. فعادي يعني ما عندي أي مشكلة من ناحية وهم قريب من المجتمع اللي احنا بيه، اللي المحافظة اللي أنا بيها، كل هاي أشياء بيها متفجرات وبيها مخلفات حربية كثيرة. فطموحي إنه أني ما تبقى ولا وحدة، إنه خلاص إن الإنسان يعيش بأمان، يعني المحافظة كلها ما يضل بيها أي متفجرات. أما طموحي بالمستقبل طبعا كل شخص يتمنى يصعد من درجة لدرجة، أو أنجح كديماينر بعدين أصعد لتيم ليدر وبعدين أبقى في نفس المجال.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Shaima is part of a new team of local staff working for MAG in Mosul, who will help bring in peace and safety to the region. She's continuing this great legacy that we've started together so many years ago. MAG was the first NGO organization who came into Iraq and helped us to clear mines, save lives, and return the land safely to the communities. I know that our teams will not leave the country until the job is done, and this is like a MAG nature, and we are working on that ethics or system. During my working time with MAG, I have really numerous memories and good, nice, and makes me to continue with MAG. It makes me like dedication of people and their commitments, respect and acceptance from the communities, support from the government and local authorities and local village leaders is an incentive. And beside of that, the general donations from the donors make us to enable our job to be able to continue, because without it we can't continue. So the reason I'm here still is the dedication and commitment of my colleagues and the support from everyone. So thank you very much, and forgive me because I've learned my English in MAG Iraq, and if there was something unclear, So I've learned and picked it up during my service with MAG, so I apologize for that. Thank you.
Oh, Salaam, thank you so much. That's really, really impactful to hear your story. Thank you, everybody, all of our panelists today for sharing your insights and kind of giving us that overview of the program. Like Darren said at the beginning, we really want everyone to feel, you know, like they're being transported to the region and that they're understanding sort of what a day in the life is like for somebody like Salaam, who has 30 years of experience, or from Shema, one of our brand new deminers in Mosul. So we're going to kind of transition gears here and move into the Q&A. We've got lots of questions that have been coming in throughout the conversation. So thank you, everybody. Please keep them coming. If we're not able to get to every question that we have in the time allocated, we're going to be putting this video up on our social media channels, primarily on Facebook, in the coming day. And so we'll be able to answer questions in the comment section as well on Facebook. So if we don't get to it live, we'll try to get to it online. So with that, I'm going to kind of toggle over here and look at some of these great questions in the Q&A here. One that struck me a little while ago, since we were just hearing from Shema, and she kind of touched on this in her remarks, is a question that I'll direct to Bayan, if that's all right. And that is from Eva. And she asks, what kind of challenges do women face in post-conflict countries? And in the Kurdish region particularly, what's life like for women?
Thank you very much, Catherine. And Kak Salam, your English is perfect. So good job for you and Mag to learn English while you're demining. It's a very good question about the role of women in Iraqi and particularly Kurdish society. I would say by and large in Kurdistan, women are more free to have a more active role in all aspects of society, whether it's work, whether it's the family, perhaps even in politics and so on. In our Kurdistan parliament, there is a 30% quota for women. So 30% of MPs at a minimum are women. In the Iraqi federal parliament, the quota for women is 25%. I know there are many women who oppose quotas and think that women should just get to places like this on their own merit. Of course, that is how it should be. But in my experience of seeing how things have evolved in Kurdistan, quotas work. By demanding a 30% quota for members of parliament, it forces every party that wants to compete in elections to educate, train, and bring forward women among their membership to then have them become members of parliament. And as a society, the more that we see women on television, when we go to the doctor is a woman. When you go to your children's school, the teachers are female. When you do business, a certain number are women. The more women are visible in our society, the more it's accepted. And I think that's what Shema was doing by setting an example in a society that, by the sounds of it, where she's from in Mosul, is much more conservative than most of our society in Kurdistan. I think it's important to say that Kurdish women have a bigger role in society, but also to recognize that there is a great deal that we still need to do. We still have a long way to go. Mentorship is important, examples are important, but also activism. And there are plenty of women's rights groups and NGOs in Kurdistan that are very active on this front. And I'll hand over back to you, Catherine.
Wonderful, thank you so much. We've got another question in the chat here. I think probably I'll hand this one off to Darren, if that's all right. It says, what advocacy does MAG do to promote signature to the Landmine Convention? What overlaps are there with the international campaign to ban landmines? And what about the advocacy against cluster bombs?
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, well, I mean, the quick, simple answer is we work in collaboration across the sector. I note there's questions in relation to how we work with the campaign, how we work with the Halo Trust. There's much more work to do than any one organization can do. We've heard that so clearly from Salaam, and that is a message that is relevant to Iraq as well as it is globally. So, you know, for me in leading MAG, it is about a culture of collaboration, both how we work internally and how we work across the sector. The promotion of international humanitarian law is something that MAG stands with and advocates for, but our focus as a demining operator has been principally on the clearance of remnants of conflict and clearance of landmines and cluster munitions around the world, and working close collaboration with a number of organizations to support advocacy, to inform advocacy, and through our own efforts advocate for change, both in respect to the campaign's reference, but also initiatives such as Landmine Free 2025, which is an advocacy campaign we have run historically and currently run to realize that vision that we have. And again, for communities impacted by cluster munitions, want to stand with and in collaboration with members of the campaign in their efforts. So there's a short answer. There's much more to it, but we are a welcome member of the society that collaborates on those issues. I'll leave it there, Catherine. Yeah.
That sounds great. I'll just add to it. If anybody is joining us from the United States today, we just launched a brand new tool on our website. If you go to magamerica.org/advocacy, and I'll put that in the chat box as well, you can write a letter to your representative in Congress and ask them to support not only continual funding for landmine clearance, but for the United States also to join the mine ban treaty. So we've always got ways for our supporters to really get in touch and help us with this advocacy work, because I think your voice is really powerful in terms of telling your elected leaders why this is so important to you and helps us be able to do what we do. So I'll add a little bit more about that in the chat box as well, but thanks very much, Darren. I've got another question here. I'm going to hand this one over to Salaam. It's a two-part question. So the first question, the first part of it that I saw come through said, are you ever surprised by a mine design, or are you confident you've encountered all known designs for landmines at this point?
To be quite honest with you, we have set of rules and we are working according to the international mine action standards to deal with the threats of mines and exploded ordnance. Always, we start from the basic studying, dealing with it without putting our safety on any other people's safety. Yes, there are different types, especially with the improvised explosive devices. Always, they are developing different techniques, different design and the rest. But at the same time, we are developing our approaches how to encounter them items safely. Yeah, always we have to use our brain and having the team, a big team of the technical experts. We are sharing all information among ourselves and the other mine action players in the region and with the government. So all together, we are sharing the information because our safety, their safety is the same, because we're working as a family in the mine action.
Thank you. That's great. All right, I think we have time just for one more question. I know we're hitting right at 2 o'clock here. Jack, this question's for you, since you're the newest member to join the MAG family of everybody who's on this call, at least. When you started last year, what struck you the most about MAG's work?
Yeah, good question. I think it's probably the length that MAG will go to clear these items. My first trip actually was out in Salaam, and it was to a area that was contaminated from the Iran-Iraq war. It was clambering up a mountainside in really hot conditions and sort of seeing MAG colleagues sort of through the foliage and the trees and the bushes working away on this site in this really remote area. And, it's so impressed to see that MAG will go where others can't or won't to make sure that those areas can then get opened up, because this is a beautiful part of the world and it should be used for agriculture or hiking. There's lots of amazing hiking in Kurdistan. And it's just such a shame to have all of these hectares of land that are inaccessible due to this hangover from all the conflicts. So I was really impressed to see MAG going as far as they can, even if it's tough. We don't do the easy work, we do the hard work.
Oh, that's right. Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone. I know there are still many more questions in the Q&A that we didn't get to answer, but we'll put those on our social media feeds so that we can answer some of those in a little bit more real time here. But I just want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists, Darren, Jack, Bayan, Salaam. It was such a pleasure to spend an hour with you and to transport us to the program and get a better sense of it. And to all of our participants who joined us this afternoon and evening, depending on where you're located, thank you so much for your time. We really enjoyed your questions and are looking forward to continuing to do these types of events over the course of the year. So if you have a particular country or area of our work you want to hear more about, please feel free to tag us on social media. We're at Minds Advisory Group. And you can also just use the hashtag virtual visit and we'll be able to kind of connect with you from there. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon. All right. Bye-bye all.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye.